Tim, husband of one, father of five, realtor, and this is Behind the Sign. And today we got Jasmine Botto. She is with Royal LePage in Canada, correct?
Yes,
And you've been in the business how long?
I've been in the business. Well, I've been in the business since 1986, but I've been
Clarify that
licensed
one.
in real estate since 2000.
Okay, what'd you do before 2000?
While I was going to university, I worked reception at a brokerage close to the university that I was attending. So I
Okay,
worked
so
there on weekends and evenings.
that's
Yeah,
awesome. I've got a daughter right now who's 16 or just turned 17, and she's very interested in the professional world, and real estate, something that she's been thinking about. And, I told her, why don't you get your license when you turn 18? Even when you're in high school, get your license, get it
yeah,
done. And then from there, you can hold open houses. You can help, like if you go to college somewhere, you can hold open houses for a brokerage or for, somebody, just get on somebody's team, give them the leads. They pay you 25% referral fee. And as a college kid, I mean,
love
you
it.
make $1,000 here, $2,000 there. That's more than most kids are making. Plus, by the
No,
time she gets out of college, she's an experienced realtor.
fantastic advice. Love it.
So she's thinking about doing that, but we'll see how it goes. So
Nice.
we share a real estate coach in common.
We do.
It seems like Mary catches them and holds on to them because she said that you've been with her about as long as I have.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's been my counselor basically.
Right? Through all the life's ups and downs as well as
Well,
the
more so
business.
through my personality, right? Like I'm a very driven. Mary, I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about this. So then she's got to do a total 180 and shift over to what I want to talk about. So in my vent, like if it was great.
That sounds
Just the other day, on Tom Ferry's show, they were talking about the real estate world is lonely. And I was like, man, that couldn't be more from the truth. Like every day, we work by ourselves. We have people around us, but for the most part, we're driving here, driving there, all by ourselves. So being able to have someone like a Mary, someone that we can call a coach, and we can, like air out all of our frustrations that isn't going to affect the people we're working with. It's really valuable to have somebody for that. And for me, I mean, there was probably 3 years where I kept her just for that reason, not necessarily for giving me new ideas and pushing me this way and that way, because I've been very against the team thing for a long time, just because I can't get out of my own way. But man, she's done a good job at being a good ears, listening and
yeah.
understanding. So
She's changed my life. It's for me, it was all about balance. Doing the same amount of business without making myself crazy or becoming unhealthy. And
yeah,
I don't know what I'd do without her. Truly, I said to her, she can't ever retire.
she can, right?
No,
Yeah,
I,
and this last year was the first time I met her, because
oh,
I've got 3 girls that all play volleyball, and during the summit, it's the school season, and I've got 5 children, so it's tough for me to just take off and leave the kids, right? Plus, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I like to deer hunt, and that's kind of right. The deer season's right here, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna do something away from my family, it's got to be something that's going to give me my peace, my joy, right?
yes.
And so flying out and going to a retreat for 3 days just never made the docket. And I know I should make priorities, but at the time, my kids and my peace of mind was it, right?
Sure.
But I made the elite retreat in Vegas, and I met Mary for the first time after I think 7 years of coaching.
Fantastic. And are you going in February?
Yeah, the elite one. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
going to try and make that was the other issue why I never went to the elite, was because my girls go from high school ball to club volleyball. And so club volleyball hits and I'm traveling all over for like 3-day weekends for tournaments. So it's tough.
Yeah.
A lot of things happening. So,
See.
right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between Canada and the United States.
Okay.
I had Mary on this morning right before I think you probably talked to her, and she's like, "Oh, you should ask her about how mortgages are done in Canada." And she kind of explained it, but why don't you tell me the qualifications, and do you know much about the lending in the US?
Uh, I don't. I mean, I know sort of the generalities. I know that the trends are generally the same in respect of our interest rates.
Okay.
One of the big differences is you can't write off your interest here in Canada.
Okay.
Big for
Yep.
affordability. Right?
Yep.
So, typically a mortgage here is amortized. There are less choices in the mortgage world, I'm going to say, in Canada than there are in the States.
Okay.
Typically, you amortize for the most part over a 25-year period. They'll go as high as 30, but not beyond. Most people don't go below 25, but there are, amortization periods less than that. Most of the variable rate has outperformed the fixed mortgage rates over history. But we find most of our clients like the comfort level of being at a fixed rate. So the most popular term for a fixed rate is a 5-year term. So 25-year amortization, a 5-year term at X%. And then at that 5-year period, it renews at whatever the current interest rate
Gotcha.
is. And our variable rates probably work very, very much the same as yours. It's the prime lending rate less a certain percentage depending on your income, your qualification, how good your credit is. So today, those are all hovering in around 5.5%,
Yeah.
which is a full 2.25 points higher than it was in the spring of this year. So it's been a dramatic change.
Yeah. We, for the last probably 3 years, actually for the last 7 or 8 years, since the market rebounded, arms have kind of gone away. When interest rates got so low for us, I mean, we were down in that 3% mark. You can't really make a big enough difference to go to an arm. So we didn't see anybody getting an adjustable rate because it was like, or the variable rate, because why would you when you can lock in 30 years at 3%?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Amazing.
now the rates like spiked. I think we're pretty close to 7% right now, 6.5, maybe somewhere in there for a 30-year. Now I've got a product right now where we can get a 10-year, 10-year, we call them arms, that you lock in at 4.5% for 10 years. And for me, it's a no-brainer. Like,
yeah,
go to
then you can budget and make your plans, right?
There's really nobody. I know very few people who have gotten a loan in the last 10 years who still have that same loan. People either move or they refi or whatever the case may be, or they pay it off. Most of the time, like when I look at someone who's lived in a home for 10 years and they've kept that same mortgage, they're refining to a 15-year to get it paid off sooner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's like, you know what? It's a very safe move going to a 10-year arm. I know back in the heyday, back in like 2006 and 7, we had balloons, which were bad news. The balloons where people really got stuck because you had 3 years and then all of a sudden people didn't have their job anymore, or didn't have the credit anymore because they let anybody get a loan back then and caused all these foreclosures. But I think that 10-year arm's a pretty safe program.
Yeah, it sounds like very like middle of the road and comfortable.
Absolutely. So Mary was saying something about your qualifications. You actually, as a buyer, you have to qualify at a higher interest rate than what you're going to get.
You do. You have to qualify at 2 points over the posted rate. And that is called, here in Canada, it's called the stress test. So it is, I guess, protecting the client in the face of potentially rising rates. So that's one of the reasons why we have one of the lowest foreclosure rates. I think it's under 0.3% of all mortgages, 0.3%. So very, very low foreclosure rate. So
yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like it's protecting the banks as much as it's protecting the buyer.
Yeah. Yes. So your qualification is higher. Your payments are, at whatever good deal you can get under that. But to qualify now, it's a struggle. Yeah, for some, and so it's eroding people's purchasing power, right?
You're right. It's just, I mean, and it's eroding ours too, but just on a smaller scale, a different scale, because we don't have to go that 2 points higher. Do you find it encouraging people to work harder on their credit and be more financially responsible, or do you find it just short or making that buyer pool that much smaller in your
Um,
mind?
oh, that's a good question. I'm actually surprised at the number of people that don't um, not pay attention, don't know uh, more than they actually could know about mortgage financing, because that this is one of the reasons we always recommend working with a mortgage broker, a mortgage professional that can source all kinds of lenders for you
Mm-hmm.
here, rather than just going to your bank and getting your own product, because they will give you a little bit of an education about what it means and how it works.
Yep.
Um, so uh, I think that Canadians in general are sort of more relying on the system to keep them safe than they are actually thinking about it, which is actually a surprise to me. So we try at every turn to put our customers in touch with a good broker. We've got a long list of ones
Mm-hmm.
that are quite good at what they do. And then as far as demand goes, demand is still very, very strong here. So lots of buyers circling, but a lot of them also have that let's just wait and see what happens kind of mentality.
Okay.
I don't blame them, because there's uncertainty in our marketplace and in our province and in the world as a whole, right?
Right. So I saw your YouTube last YouTube marketing update, and you mimicked what I said. Like what you said is what I said. There's uncertainty. That word right there is extremely important in our business. I think there's too many people that try and play the role of knowing what's going to happen. I just put a market update out there, and when I do my updates, I'm always like, I feel, I think, I'm guessing, because it really is a guessing game at this point. At
It
least
is.
here it is. Like that uncertainty is massive. Now, along with that, you said there's a lot of people that are just kind of waiting to see what happens. Now,
Yes.
what happens in your mind right now based on the inventory and the people who are waiting to see your pent up demand? What happens if rates drop a point or 2 points? What
They
happens
drop.
yeah, if all of a sudden rates go down a percent or two?
Well, I think that's going to create it's almost going to create the frenzy of demand again, because our supply is still incredibly low, like historically low. Still, I'm going to say about only 60% of the inventory, generally speaking, that we had in 2019, which is not that long ago. So inventory in all categories. We have a lot of apartments in our market, and townhomes and detached houses. Like in all respects, all the inventory is quite low, and our prices have come off in the like between March and now, somewhere between 7% and 20%, depending on the product. So interest rates rising and prices coming down are almost making it a bit of a balance for the buyer. So our advice to most people, I mean, it's kind of a sweeping generalization, is yes, interest rates have gone up. Yes, prices have come down. Yes, things are uncertain, but isn't it better to be in the market than not in the market? So if you find something that you like, that suits your family, it's a good neighborhood, and it meets most of your criteria, and you can afford it without stretching,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it better to start building equity than it is to wait and see what happens? Because you can always refinance down the road. There's
Yeah.
always options to
Yeah.
change things up.
It's crazy that, you know, me being in the Midwest of the United States and you being in you're in the far west, southwest side of Canada, right? The markets are almost identical. Like everything you said is exactly what we're seeing here. I mean, you say it's 60% of 2019. Well, in 2019, we were still low on inventory,
Yes,
not as stressed as we are today. So like
agreed.
I go back to 2006. I always use that number because that's right before our inventory started to shift. Back when the foreclosures hit 2006 to 2009, right? Well, in 2006, I remember in my market, we had a total of 6,000 homes for sale. And in that 6,000 was just our city, Des Moines, and the Des Moines metro, the suburbs around it, everything within probably 25 to 30 minutes of downtown Des Moines. Well, now we have about 7 other communities outside of Des Moines included in our MLS, and we have 2,700 homes for sale.
Oh, okay.
So like that, we're severely, and I don't, I don't know how your market, and maybe you can share this, but new construction in our market carries 52% of our inventory.
Really?
Yes. So on
I
the
would,
on the resale side of things, we have a 1 month supply of homes on the resale side. So like I've been preaching that
yeah.
it's that market shift, or if that interest rate, because do you guys consider, is Canada considered to be in a recession right now?
If not, we're super close. Yeah.
So by the rule of economics that they've used for years, the United States is in a recession. 2 quarters of negative GDP equals a recession. We're about to come on that third quarter. If it comes out as a negative GDP, the way that they've always battled two of the major drivers in our economy is the automobile industry and the housing industry. And right now, both of them are going to struggle, A, for supply, and B, because the interest rates went way up on both of them. If once our election's done here, I've been saying that the government now is going to be forced to start to deal with the recession and try and get the economy back on track. The number one way they do that is they reduce interest rates to get people out buying stuff again. And that's why I have a hunch that, say February, March rolls around, we're going to see some rate drops again. And just like you said, all those buyers are going to be there. If our inventory is already low, everybody that's been sitting there waiting, plus the people who are already there, are going to be diving all over them. And this market's just going to be just like it was last year. Highest and best offer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, I can see us going that direction. Like the rate at which the Bank of Canada, the central bank here, has raised rates, it's almost, well, it's fast. It's very fast, and it always lags. Like the results always lag. So to actually see, we have another rate increase coming up in a few days, so we hear. But I still think we haven't got over the first three. Like we haven't seen actually the results. So by the time the last rate increase happens, we're going to be waiting, I don't know, 6 months before we see result of that, and it might shift back, just like you say.
Yeah. And that it's all a bite, right? Like I know that there's people out there. First of all, are you pretty heavy on social, or just kind of dabble in it, or like how are you pretty? So do you get many people on that? Do you guys have a TikTok account? I did not check that.
We do, but it's relatively new, so I wouldn't say it's out there as much yet.
So I put my market update on, it's 3 parts because it was too long. And one of the parts has, I don't know, I had like 6,000 views as of this morning. And I just put it on last night, but I'm getting the hate. And it's funny because in part 3, I'm like, now I know there's all these people on social media that are negative this, negative that, but they must not have watched that one. But they were just blasting me, like basically saying everything I'm saying is wrong. The market's terrible. The world's going to end. The houses are way too expensive. And I'm like, houses are way expensive, but so is everything. So are they going to drop the price on houses and your food and your gas and your trash bags? Like, no, it's not going to happen. No. And so in my mind, like what you said earlier, now is a good time to buy because you can refi later if the rates drop. If they don't drop, you're going to be dang glad you got the one you did.
Right.
And you're not going to have to compete. The other side of it is if you wait.
Beautiful. You can negotiate. It's amazing. Yes. Like from that perspective, buyers shouldn't have to fight to buy a home.
If you wait, you're going to run into that same problem you had last year, and then you're going to be mad. So I don't know. It's one of those things where you wish you could just smack some sense into people, but on the flip side, they probably want to say the same thing about me. So who knows, right?
It's kind of too bad that the negative people are the ones with the time on their hands to be able to.
I know it, right? Anyway. It's crazy. The good thing about TikTok is you can just delete people. Like you can just delete their comment. They're not following you, so who cares? But I don't delete all of them because some of them have some relevant points, and I don't like. I'm not just going to say everybody's wrong. If they're rude, if they say something bad about me or call me an idiot or something, fine. I don't care. You're gone. But like if you make a point, it's fine. I'll leave it there, and we'll see how it tracks. And I would love to be able to go back to my video in 6 months and go,
see,
okay, told you so.
Yeah.
But maybe, hey, maybe in 6 to 8 months, if things don't get better and they get worse and prices drop, I'll go back on and say I was wrong. I don't
Yeah,
want to, but I mean, I'd be happy to do it.
yeah. So would I.
You know,
Because all we can do is like we can't predict. Like I've told people you have just as much chance talking to your hairdresser about market predictions as we can be accurate. And we follow trends
yep,
and we study our market every day and we give you the best advice possible. But as far as predicting where it's going to go, there's so many factors now. It's not just Des Moines. It's not just Ankeny, right? It's the world.
yep, yep. It could just be anything can happen at any time and anything can change. But if you follow the trends, you follow history, it seems like we might see a little bit of relief next spring, which would be great. Which would be great.
Yeah.
But you know, on the flip side, people say, well, we can't afford houses, they need to come down. And I just like I feel bad saying it, but I just want to say, you know what? Prices probably aren't going to go down. And if rates do drop, like they're just going to go up. So you got to come up with a plan B. You got to figure out like if you want to buy a house, maybe you buy one today.
Yeah.
And
Figure out what you need to compromise on.
it's not as big as you want, or it's not exactly what you want, but buy it today and see what happens. And if things change and the prices go up, guess what? You got an asset that just increased in price.
Build your equity.
Yep. So tell me this. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. What are you doing right now to lead gen?
I'm spending probably the most time on the phone that I've ever spent on the phone, shaking the tree. So talking to our database. So 80% of our business is repeat and referral. So that's awesome. And I am lucky. I am taking over the business of a retiring agent in my office.
Okay.
That is like, so it's just fresh. So we've inked our agreement and we're going to go forward with that. We pay for a few leads through Agent Locator. I have a lucky to have a buyer's agent who is that's one of her main responsibilities is to take those and nurture the leads. And then, you know, we really didn't do open houses through the height of the pandemic, but now that things are coming off, we're very good at them. We have sort of a signature evening open house that we do here in our community. We invite the neighbors.
You said an evening one?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes over really, really well. We invite all the neighbors with knocking on their door and giving them an invitation. We serve wine and cheese just a little bit. And we have good conversations with people in the neighborhood. And it's a beautiful thing because we post it everywhere we can on social media, on MLS and on our website. And so buyers that are interested will come see the house, but they'll also get to meet the neighbors. So it's
cool. Yeah.
It's just a great thing. So those are sort of the main ways that we're generating business right now.
Well, that's neat. So you work in a heavy populated area, or are you kind of out in the suburbs?
We are a suburb of Vancouver proper. So what's the population of North Van? Probably 240,000, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you ever jump into proper, or is that just too far out of your game?
We do. My buyer's agent, Tracy, she actually lives in downtown Vancouver proper. And so she kind of has her hands on that market. So yes, we can.
Cool.
But we're fortunate to be busy. So we don't really go farther than half an hour from where we are. Because our local market, we're super grateful, keeps us rocking and rolling. So.
Yep. Yeah, we had a time where there's a market just to the north of us, and they had their own MLS and everything. And when inventory got low back in like 2015, right? Like people keep thinking inventory just got low, but it's been lower than it's supposed to be for quite a while.
Yes.
They kind of gravitated down into our market, and that's why they joined into our MLS because they needed stuff to sell. And when you're in a town of 20, 30,000 people and you only have 5 homes you can sell, it got pretty rough on them. So we saw a lot of those agents popping in and out of our metro area. And yeah, I just can't imagine being in a market where there's so few homes that you have to like literally drive 45 minutes to try and show a house.
Yeah.
I,
Fortunately, it wasn't that bad here.
that's
I guess the other side of the coin is we have people that say, I've moved out of the area. Can you help me? Because we love you. So
right.
that's lovely. So
Yes, that's awesome.
yeah. So we've built up a really good referral network in the areas that we don't serve. In fact, we're going to do a video on that relatively soon. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to travel quite a bit right now if we want to find a home under 200,000. Like in Iowa, we've got the rural Iowa. So you've got a lot of small towns that are, say, 45 minutes to an hour outside of Des Moines. And you can get a house for about anywhere from 20 to 50 grand less than you can in the metro. So, when I have a client call me and they're like, hey, we can only afford this. We want a house. We've been looking in this town and this town and this town. I'm like, all right, I get it, because we're not going to find one in this town unless you go live in an area that you may not want to live in. So it's definitely when the inventory was low, it was low and it was hard. It was a very difficult game, but I just worry about that coming back, man. I feel like everybody's just sitting out waiting and not expecting it, and it's going to hit us pretty hard.
Yeah. And you're right. It wasn't fun. Like, I think, a lot of us as real estate sales professionals had really good years when, inventory was so low and we were running around like crazy. People would say to us, you must love this market. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't.
No,
It's
no,
it's doing the same amount of work in a very, very tight time frame, and you feel bad for your people who have to wait how many months before they can secure a home, and the prices kept rising, and
the
yeah, not
stress,
fun.
the stress was insane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people, so one of the things for us is, you might have the same situation. Like when you go show a house, you got to travel, 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes to go show a house. By the time you leave your family, you get to the showing, you're talking 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes. You show the house and then you go back home, another 30 minutes back home. So now you've got an hour and a half into it. Now, in the back, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, you could go show 5 houses, knock it all out, and you don't have that travel time both ways for every single house.
True.
And that's the way it was for the last couple of years. It's like, hey, this house popped on. Can we go see it tonight at 6?
Yeah.
That means I got to leave the house at 5:15, and I don't get home until the kids are in bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock for one house.
Yeah.
And you have to do that 6 times or 8 times or however many times until they win a bid, right? For all of your clients. So for us, it got super, super stressful, not just the competition side of it, but that managing your schedule, only showing one house at a time.
Agreed. Same. Yeah. Bring back the balance. I'm good with that.
Yeah, bring it back, right? So let's talk about that balanced market. What do you guys consider a balanced market? A month supply.
Well, in North Vancouver, I would say that is probably an inventory of 700 to 800 listings for sale at any one time.
Yep. And what are you currently sitting at?
50, right now we are 250, almost 500.
Okay, so you're,
mid-fours.
I mean, that's
Like we're half of what a balanced market would be.
right.
Although it's kind of funny, we're sort of heading there primarily because the sales have dropped.
Yes.
So in the height of the frenzy, we saw 80-90% sales to listings ratio, and now we're seeing half that.
Yeah.
So for every 100 listings, 40 will turn over.
Yep.
So, but inventory is climbing a little bit at a time. So fortunately, we have an environment where, although interest rates have risen, the inventory is not shot up because people are still like, if I sold my house, where would I go?
Yeah, we've been battling that for quite a while. If I sold my house, where would I go? I mean, I've been hearing that since probably 2017, because it's just been a constant struggle. But there's, for us here, we have a lot of new construction, but I would say majority of the builders have cut back on their starts. So here, what they do is they start a home, They get it foundation and ground so they can get it capped off for the winter so they can work on the inside throughout the winter. Now it's available for the spring. Um, we are the number of starts I'm guessing is probably half of what we're used to.
And,
Which,
and you said it's 52% of your market,
yeah,
right?
yep. So if you think like right now, well, throughout the entire pandemic, builders wouldn't list the house until it was in trim stage or beyond,
Yeah,
because people wanted changes. They'd be like, oh, we want this, this, this. And it's like, no, we have to order everything at the beginning. No changes. We're too busy. It's
yeah,
chaotic. So they weren't. Well, then all of a sudden, things slow down just enough. The builders are now listing their houses back at the foundation stage, which plays with the numbers a little bit, right? Like now all of a sudden inventory is climbing, but there are also a bunch of houses that aren't going to be ready for 6 months or 4 months. So
yeah,
they're not really there, right? They're there, but they're not there.
right.
But what's gonna in my like that's one of my concerns is first you have the new construction where they're dropping back on the number of starts. So our spec homes will be a lot less. And then we also have all the people who are locked in at their 2.5%, 3% interest rate. They're not selling. Like you have to have you have to be moving out of the area or a major reason to sell a home when you're at a 3% interest rate, when
Okay.
the next one is going to be smaller than what you live in and cost more money per month. So those homes just aren't going to come on the market.
Yeah,
So
yeah, same here. Yeah.
that's where I see that next spring being an interesting time. And when the haters come at me about the pricing, I keep saying the value of the home is different than the list price. I mean, just because we're seeing list prices drop doesn't mean that value is going down much.
Agreed.
But,
Yeah.
so you mentioned something just a bit ago that was real interesting. You're taking over the business of someone who's working their way out of the business.
Yes.
It sounds like that's a great exit plan, because
It is.
we as real estate agents just think we're going to have to grind until we die, because
Yeah.
because if you don't sell a home, what's next? You don't get paid.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's a great exit plan. We've been colleagues for, well, as long as I've been doing this, 23 years. He's got a few more years under his belt than I do, and he's someone that I really admire. And it goes both ways. Like if he's gone away, I've looked after his clients. If I've gone away, he's looked after my clients. And we run very similar businesses. Same, different style, but same level of expertise in caring for people. And he approached me and I said, absolutely, I would. Like, it's an honor, really. It's
Yeah.
an honor and a gift. And so then we work out a schedule of how that's going to work, and like physically and length of time and how the money exchanges hands and stuff like that. And I'm super excited because I feel I've been given a great gift.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny because I had this conversation with a lender friend of mine. I've got two lender friends. One's been in the business forever. And I know they could retire in a heartbeat and live any life they wanted. He's done that well for that long, right? And my friend that's a lender is friends with him as well. And I'm like, why don't you talk to him about buying his book of business, or not buying it, but like make him a junior lender under you so that he gets paid on every deal that comes through, just probably a similar way you've got it set up. Work it out over 5 years or 4 years or however many years they work it out, and then sooner or later the shift will happen 100%. But in the meantime, I mean, we all like we work for, do you guys get a lot of relocation companies?
We don't.
So here, it's crazy. Relocation companies, they help people move from job to job. They give the client some benefits within there. But when I started in 2004, it was a 25% referral fee to the referral company. The referral company makes you do way more paperwork than any other deal, and then you have to pay
Yeah,
25% out. They've worked their way all the way up to 40% now.
it's not worth it.
Right. And for us, like if you're an established agent, it I'll take them only if it's someone that's my client and I want to make sure they're cared for, because
Mhm.
the likelihood of getting Now there are some, I'm not going to say there aren't, cases where they're good agents, but the likelihood of you getting an experienced agent that's 100% dialed into the market, willing to take that 40% pay cut is pretty
When,
slim.
yeah.
So if you enter into that relocation, I just had someone call me on my listing. So their agent showed the house. After they showed it, the buyer called me and was like, "Hey, I'm in a relocation deal. I have to work with this agent to get my benefits. We've missed out on a bunch of homes for stupid stuff. I want to ask you some questions. Do you mind?" I'm like,
Wow.
"Wow." I'm like, "Wow, is that where it's come to?" Like, isn't that nuts?
It's really crazy.
It is, but
That's
I
bad
guess
on so many levels.
the reason I went onto that tangent was I would be willing to do a deal with, a big time agent that's starting to step out and get paid, just 25 or 30%, because we know it's going to continue to pay you for years after. And you're
Well,
forming a whole new relationship.
yeah. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, I have a couple good books that I bought to help me through it. And of course, I talked to Mary, and so I've got a little bit of a framework I'd be happy to pass on.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the books? Go ahead. What are the books? Go ahead.
Oh, it's called The Golden Handoff.
Golden Handoff. Okay.
Golden Handoff, and it's a book to read and a workbook that goes with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I might do that because I have someone that I've been targeting for a while. So that might be a good way for me to figure out how to make the actual approach.
Yeah, for sure. Get the book.
Yeah. Well, it's like when we talk about the experienced agents that have been around for, the agent, like when I came in 2004, that was doing a lot of business, and now they're in their 70s, right? And they're still selling real estate because remember, there's not much of an exit strategy. It's a constant grind. Um, they typically, it's hard for them to keep up with the social media and all the changes and the technological changes. And they work off of 100% referral, which I think has softened a little bit. I think, the 100% referral thing, it's a lot harder to do that today because there's
Yeah.
so many different resources out there. And
Yeah.
even though someone plans on working with you, they click a button, next thing you know, they're buying a house. Happens to all of us, right?
Yes.
So it would be nice to find that situation like you did. That's pretty awesome. Actually, like
It's
it
been
found
great.
you. It found you, right?
Yes, it
You
found
didn't
me.
find it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Do you have any questions for me? I mean, I know I've done a lot of talking. I try not to, but
I know it's great. This has been just really great. Well, yes, I do. Do you ever have clients that move north of the border?
I have a couple clients from Canada. I had one that moved here from Canada, but I haven't had any go. I mean, and we're not far from the border. Um, like if we go, we're probably 8 hours, 7 hours north, straight through Minnesota. If Minnesota wasn't so stinking long, it wouldn't it wouldn't take so long. But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
I think eventually I will probably run into more scenarios that way. But
Well, we should stay in touch.
oh, we will. I'll see you at the elite retreat, right?
Yes, you will get to meet you there. And my other question is, did you know that I looked up a little bit about your city,
Yep.
and I found some similarities between your city and my city.
Okay.
Like, it sounds like it's a bit of a foodie city with your culinary institute and stuff
Yep.
like that,
Yep.
and also craft beer. So there you
Craft
go.
beer is craft beer has become very popular. Yeah.
Yeah,
So when you say Culinary Institute, which one are you thinking?
I think it's Iowa. If I'm not mistaken. It's close to you. Am I right?
Well, is it at DMAC? Did you at a college?
Yes.
Well, you know what? My neighbor runs it.
Really?
So I got a
Oh,
neighbor. His name's John. He's got a full outdoor kitchen, and when we see him out there, we all just kind of go stand on our deck, like, "What's up, John?"
oh, what's for dinner?
Right? Always cooking
Awesome.
like the craziest, best meals. You could just smell it floating through the air. But yeah, no, Des Moines is a very people don't look at Iowa and think culture. They think cornfields and flatland and hillbillies and rednecks. I have a good friend who did a video back in, I think it was 2012 when Obama was running, because Iowa is where they have the first caucus of the year or of the election. He did a video.
Okay.
He was like, he's called Iowa Nice was the name of the video. And he's like one of the really snarky. Maybe if I'll send it to you, you'll probably get a kick out of it. But one of you says, he says, when you fly over, wave. We'll wave back. We're nice. But people think of Iowa just that way, right? Like,
I guess.
We're not anything special. We don't do anything fun. We're just boring rednecks.
Oh, I didn't think that.
Well, that's the majority of the country does. They think corn. Oh, you're from
Okay.
Iowa? You got corn, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But Des Moines has done a wonderful job of developing trail systems, developing, like, we have the World Food Prize, we have the World Food Festival, we have like we have art shows, we have awesome farmers markets, we have just the arts is huge in Des Moines, and you wouldn't think it, but it's really growing. So culture's come in here, and I don't know many people that don't like it in Des Moines. So
Wonderful. We'll have to visit one day.
yes, is Vancouver fun? Is it a touristy place?
Vancouver is awesome. I mean, I'm biased because I grew up here, but it's world class. We have everything. You can ski and swim on the same day. We've got some beautiful resort communities that are not far away that you can visit. We've got awesome trails, very big on protecting greenery here in our city, like lots of trees and woods and trails, good schools, safe communities, nightlife, good shopping. Like, it's pretty great.
That's
and
awesome.
The weather is not so bad, not as bad as people think. We get a lot of rain, but this has been the most beautiful October I've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome. We didn't get hardly any rain this summer. We're in a drought, so you could throw some of that. Actually, now is probably not the time to throw it this way because we do want to get the corn out of the fields, but we could have used it in June and July for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you popping on. And
it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We will stay in touch, and I will see you in February, right?
Indeed.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And I wish you the best of luck in the fourth quarter.
Likewise.
Turns out they're all pretty similar. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. We'll make sure we get back to you. We'll see you next time.